What happens if my license is suspended and I drive anyway, and then I get pulled over and I have no license?
Well, first thing that's going to happen is the officer's going to ask you for your license, and you probably are not going to have it in your possession because you would have given it to the officer who arrested you before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the other one, the one that was taken from me, right?
Right. The next thing the officer's going to do is check the status of your driver's license through the Georgia Crime Information Center.
Okay.
It will come back that you're suspended, and then you're going to be getting out of the car and going to jail in handcuffs.
In handcuffs for driving with a suspended license, you're arrested.
Yes, you
it's
are
not
arrested.
A ticket.
No.
And what about if you're suspected of being an illegal immigrant? You know, does Georgia participate in searching, like in Arizona, where you have the Supreme Court case on Monday? What's the status there?
Well, in the immigration bill that was passed last year, House Bill 87 did include language that would have law enforcement officers checking the immigration status of folks who are stopped. If an officer has contact with someone who has a valid Georgia driver's license, something that officer can know, and I think this is important to emphasize given what the Supreme Court said about their waiting to see about whether or not officers are profiling in Arizona. I think the same is probably true here. If an officer encounters someone on a traffic stop who has a valid Georgia driver's license, that officer, first of all, if it's one of our new licenses issued starting next week, it will say it's for a limited term, and that's something that the officer is going to be able to use to know if that person is a citizen or a non-citizen.
Right.
But even if it doesn't have that limited term language on it, anyone who has a valid Georgia driver's license in their possession, the officer is going to know that that person is either a United States citizen or someone who is not a citizen but is lawfully present in the United States, at least for so long as the period of validity of the card. DDS, as we talked about earlier, DDS has our non-citizen customers bring in their immigration documents. We verify those documents with the Department of Homeland Security, and we're not going to issue a license or an identification card to someone that's valid for longer than their authorized period to stay in the U.S.
Okay, so if I'm only valid, let's just say a license, I'm making things up here, okay?
Right.
So let's say a license is good for 5 years, a driver's license in theory, and my my permission to be in the United States is only a 1 year, I only have 1 year left. Are you saying then my license would be limited to the 1 year?
That's correct.
Not the 5 in that example.
That's correct. And so if the officer were to stop you during the time that your license is valid, even if it shows that it's a limited term, the officer would need to proceed with caution because he would know that we have checked your immigration status at the time we issued you the card.
Right.
And that for the term on the card, from the date it's issued until the date it expires, you probably are lawfully present. There are certainly exceptions to that. You know, people commit crimes and become subject to deportation proceedings. But for the overwhelming majority of customers who are non-citizens, who have a valid driver's license or ID card, the officer needs to presume that they're lawfully present.
All right.